There was a time where his father went nuts and whacked him in the face with a hatchet one night. It had something to do with him being all ugly or something. Anyways, he died. They say if you get close to the house, you can still hear Victor Crowley crying for his dad at night. Here's your look at the NECA Toys Hatchet Retro Cloth Victor Crowley. After years roaming the swamps of New Orleans and claiming victims, the supernatural slasher and main antagonist of the Hatchet series, Victor Crowley, makes his action figure debut in NECA's 8-inch clothed figure line. His gruesome head sculpt features rooted hair and an axe wound left by his father. Standing approximately 8 inches tall, Victor Crowley wears his battered overalls made with real fabric and is equipped with a belt sander and double-sided axe. Certainly makes you question taking those city tours, doesn't it? Before we take a closer look at retro cloth Victor Crowley, obviously the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. I'd like to thank as well the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample of retro cloth Victor Crowley that we could have a look at in this review. The figure should be available right now in retail stores and online as well. Taking it to the very top of his quite large-sized head, Victor Crowley stands 8.366 inches in height. Probably could have just said 8.3. Switching that over to centimeters, revealing that the retro cloth Victor Crowley is 21.2 centimeters tall. Seeing really, as we don't have a lot of Victor Crowleys to compare to, we're going to move this one over, and for fun, I thought I'd bring in the Toonie Terrors Victor Crowley. You can see certainly some size comparisons. Obviously, there's some real considerable differences between the two, and I'm not just talking the height of the figures. One is definitely more designated to something you would see maybe inhabiting the swamps of a Scooby-Doo episode, which the other one is a lot more realistic and a lot more gruesome to look at. Crowley comes included with 3 accessories, starting probably with the more obvious of ones. He comes with a 2-sided hatchet. If you're curious the difference between, by the way, a hatchet and an axe, a hatchet is designed to be wielded in one hand, whereas an axe, by its longer length of handle, is designed for larger jobs where you have to use both hands. There you go. Knowing is half the battle. Looking at the detailing done to the actual hatchet, it's been painted rather nicely in the silver, and then slathered. I like using that word. I never use it nearly enough. Slathered with a good helping of blood on both sides. It seems like a little bit of the blood has made its way down onto the handle as well. That's okay. I'm sure more of it's going to find its way settled onto the hatchet. But it does come included with the figure, and actually he comes with 2 variations of his hands. One hand, this hand right here, is a slightly bigger grip intended to be wielding and holding that belt sander, which we will be looking at in a second. The smaller of the 2 hands, I've already taken the liberty and swapping it out with the forearm, the hand that was actually already in the forearm. I went ahead and swapped it with the smaller hand. And actually the only difference is the grip is slightly smaller, perfect for wielding with the single hand, that double-sided hatchet. Boy, that does look really cool. I'm going to put that down for a second. And let's have a look at the other accessory. Now, we already looked, of course, at his hands. Really grimy, dirty-looking hands. Even dirty under the fingernails. That takes forever to clean. You can see really, really nice-looking, grimy-looking hand. But he also comes included with a belt sander. The belt sander has been used. Ouch. Ouch. The belt sander has been used not necessarily to sand wood. I don't think it would look like this if you were simply just sanding wood. No. The belt sander has been used for more gruesome purposes. And the blood, like the hatchet, has been splattered all over the place. It does have a nice rusted look to it. And a nice little touch of detail I appreciate as well is if you look at the side of the belt sander, it actually says NECA. I had no idea that NECA was making miniaturized belt sanders. Ouch. Ouch. If you do want to put this in his hand specifically, then you're going to go ahead, remove the hatchet from his existing hand, remove the hand from the existing forearm, just wiggle this off like that. There we go. And replace it with the hand that's got the bigger grip. And that just pops back into place. There we go. Then you can go ahead and take the handle portion that has the little trigger on the top there, and then that slides just into his hand. Ouch. That hurts just looking at that. So that's the 2 ways you can display with the figure. Going ahead and putting those accessories to the side for the time being, let's get a closer look at Victor Crowley. All of a sudden now all this attention gets focused on Victor Crowley. Up to this point, we really haven't gotten figures made of the character. And I guess he's, what, four films in? 4 films? 4 Crowley films? 4 Hatchet films, I should say. I think the last one is called Crowley. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it is nice to see that NECA Toys is showing a little bit of love for this dweller of the swamp area. Played by Kane Hodder also, who was famous for, of course, playing Jason Voorhees. Someone who also lived by the waters. I guess he's sort of getting typecasted a little bit. I like the head sculpt. Of course, you're getting in a case like this with Victor Crowley a brand new torso piece, brand new arms. They can't really use existing retro cloth bodies because those bodies, first of all, are super muscular. And first of all, as well, you're also going to be having to see so much of it. There's no way that they would be able to use existing retro cloth bodies. I think, if anything, that they probably have used this forearm piece with earlier releases, but then, of course, have retooled brand new bicep pieces, brand new shoulder pieces, and brand new mangled-looking torsos that are underneath his overalls. Head sculpt is pretty good. We can get a closer look at that right now with the one dead eye on the one side. The big wound across his face, in case you are curious, can you take the hatchet? It doesn't actually sit in his head. It's not something like you could pull off with Jason Voorhees. It's pretty deep, but not nearly deep enough to lodge a hatchet actually into the front of his face. Probably a good reason anyways. You can also see that he does look rather anguished. His mouth open, showing some visible teeth. Some are teeth. Some are there and some are not. But it's a nice looking head sculpt. My only real critique actually stems from spinning the figure around. He does have rooted hair. And the hair, I will say, of all the hairs that I've looked at, not we can actually start comparing hairs of these figures and collectibles, but I definitely would say it's one of the more realistic hairs. It almost feels like somebody's cutting off their locks and NECA Toys is just gluing it onto the headpieces. I mean, it's nice looking hair. The problem is, though, there's not nearly enough of it. Victor Crowley should have a larger sported mane, and sadly, this figure just doesn't have nearly enough of it. Again, it's nice looking hair. I just wish that there was more of it. And there are, yes, areas on the top of the head where it has been glued in place. You can see where the glue stops and the rest of the hair continues on. If not for that, I think it's a great looking head sculpt. I just wish that there was a little bit more hair going on for Victor Crowley's face. The paintwork is really quite nice. If you're a big fan of the Hatchet films, I think this is very much a good resemblance to the way the character looks from the movie. The mangled-looking ear. I mean, everything about him. I could start listing off the things that are deformed to this person's face and body. We would be here for a very long time. I do like the fact that there is a good amount of blood splattered across his face. Remember the hatchet we were talking about? Remember the bandsaw? Ouch, belt sander. Ouch, ouch, that looks so painful. Probably a lot of that has splattered across the surface of the figure. He does have his coveralls, his overalls. As you can see, they are snapped along the top, which I guess if you probably could undo these. I really haven't done that yet, but I probably should have checked earlier underneath the hood to see if the engine was running okay. If you peel that back, there's a whole lot of gruesome Crowley going on here. The sculpting, I would imagine, it would make some logical sense. After all, if you're going to be covering all of it with a coverall, you probably don't need to sculpt all of it. So it looks like NECA Toys simply just stopped it right there and continued on its merry little way underneath that. It's just a regular retro cloth body. You're probably never going to be displaying the figure like this. That looks a little strange that you do. But yeah, it gives you the option if you want to unattach that, detach that. Of course, it just involves like a smaller child. When you have to dress small children, I don't have a case where I've dressed my child yet in coveralls, but this would be similar to this. I would just hope that she wouldn't look like necessarily Victor Crowley. But we go ahead and just fasten that back into place. Do it up like that, and then we can fit it across the shoulders. There we go. No harm, no foul. I like the look of the figure, and I like that he's proportionally very big. He should have a hunched back, and certainly they did deliver that. When you see the back of it, a nice divide up the middle of the coveralls with a big protruding spine on the back of Crowley, and that looks really nice. Something else I probably would have also done too with this particular figure is because he's sculpted so well up the top with larger sized mass, it brings more attention to the fact that the lower half of him seems to be still using a retro cloth body. I wouldn't necessarily have thickened the thighs or thickened the limbs on the lower half of his body, but I probably would have also maybe allowed for a little bit more baggage on his pants, just to make these a little bit more bigger and fuller than what he looks like right now. The pants look really tight to his leg. Draws even more attention to the fact that he has really, really skinny legs. He's missing leg day after all. He works so hard on the top torso. I probably would have made these pants just a little bit bigger and bulkier than what they look like right now. Quickly lifting up the pant leg so you guys can see the detailing on the boots underneath. One thing that is nice about these figures, certainly the new recent retro cloth figures, is that they are utilizing new articulation. So Victor Crowley, despite the fact that he does have so much new brought to the table, he still uses the new articulation on these figures. So that's good. And that includes also the ankle pivot, which is something that the earlier retro cloth figures didn't have. You remember, those only just had the straight hinges back and forth this way. It's nice to see now that they're doing a lot more in the way of ankle pivots. It certainly does mean then the figures can have a much better job, an easier time of standing upright on their own. Let's have a look at the articulation on Victor Crowley. His head is on a ball joint, so we can rotate the head all the way around. You can move the head down and move the head up, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. What a mug. What a mug. You can bring the arms out quite easily, in fact, because there's no clothing actually inhibiting any of that. You can bring the arms quite easily at a 90-degree angle bend. You can bring the arms also all the way around. He has a swivel at the bicep, a single hinge on the elbow, and then you can also rotate the hands all the way around. Kind of wish that they would have added also a little bit more paint on this side of his hand. His hand on this side gets a lot more grime and a lot more whatever's been splattered across his body. This one hand is pretty clean when you compare this one to this one over here. Then for his upper torso is on ball joint, so you can move that all the way around if you'd like. His legs split out. You can bring the legs forward and back, bend at the knee. And then, of course, all the things we looked and talked about before on the ankles. His ankle does move back and forth, so he's got that nice ankle pivot. You can move the ankle up and down this way, and you can rotate it all the way around, although it's just, I don't know why you would want to do that, but just for the sake of this review, just to show you what it looks like. Nice looking Victor Crowley overall. I don't know if I've seen surprisingly, all the Hatchet films. I may have even missed the last two, but I think there's about 4 or so under Crowley's wing right now. I'm sure we're probably going to get even more Hatchet films. You can't kill this guy off. He just simply keeps coming back and keeps coming back and keeps coming back. But nice to see that NECA Toys did bring this character back. We can move this one over. What a great segue that was. How about that? It's nice to see that they did bring him back. So we simply just didn't get the 2 Terror release that we did get before. And we are also, I think, getting the ultimate version of a Victor Crowley. I do like the look of this one. There are things, yes, I probably would have fixed. Maybe giving her slightly baggier pants so his legs look a little fuller, and probably would have given him a lot more hair. One thing that the 2 Terror does benefit from is that Victor Crowley does have a lot more mane on his head. Final looks, I've got Victor Crowley here with belt sander in hand. Ouch, that just looks so painful seeing that and knowing what it got used for. It's a nice looking figure. Like I said, it does have a few little problems, one of which you can certainly see when we have the figure spinning around on the turntable. He's lacking a little bit of the hair. And the hair department, I think, comes up a little short. You probably could have added a lot more. Now, to be fair, I could easily just go, I'm sure, to a craft store. Do they sell just artificial hair at craft stores? I'm sure they probably do. I could pick up a few. I mean, how would you buy that? I know what things are like when you go to the bulk barn and you're buying up nuts and candy. That's sort of the same thing when you go to craft stores. You just buy hair in bulk. I'm going to have to investigate that a little bit further. But the point is, I probably could find myself some faux hair sitting around somewhere, not using my own, of course, and I could probably just glue on some additional hair on the back of his head. Kind of wish they would have had a fuller mane. I mean, certainly when you see the front of the packaging here with some brand new, really nice looking artwork, he does have a lot more hair than what you're certainly seeing here with the Retrocloth release. It's a fixable means. I buy the hair in bulk, I suppose, and just do a little bit of gluing that on. Fix, presto, changeo. I've got myself a fuller haired looking Victor Crowley. Other than that, I'm just making his legs just look a little bit bulkier. I like what NECA Toys have done with the figure, introducing some much needed, appreciated sculpt to his arms, to his torso, making him even more mangly than your traditional Retrocloth figure. Victor Crowley looks pretty good. Comes up short in some departments, some categories, but for the most part, really happy with how Victor Crowley turned out. You agree with me? You disagree with me? Let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of Hatchet's Retrocloth Victor Crowley. And again, I'd like to thank the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample of Retrocloth Victor Crowley that we could have a look at in this review. If you guys are new to this channel and enjoying all the content you're seeing, enjoying the fact that also we're talking about buying hair in bulk. How does that even work? Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, that you turn the bell notification on, and that yes, you're coming back to this channel regularly, because there's always going to be new videos popping up. Lots of stuff, guys, coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.